Sheila Brown.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Great, thank you, Sheila. So council, we're under the public hearing portion of this meeting and confirmation of this agenda. Mover and seconder. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Beauregard, any questions? All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. Any disclosures of interest with regards to the public hearing? None. So David, you'll come up and start the public meeting. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, members of the public, and staff. The purpose of this meeting is pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. It is to consider an application submitted by the agent Joe Tomato on behalf of the owner 6806066 Canada Incorporated for the property legally known as part of Lot 13 on Plan 843 in the City of Port Colborne, Regional Municipality of Niagara, municipally known as 180 Fair Street. The application for zoning bylaw amendment proposes to change the zoning from neighborhood commercial to R453. The zoning bylaw amendment is being sought to permit a 6-unit apartment building on the property. Notice of the public meeting was administered in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act as amended and Section 5 of Ontario Regulation 545/06. The notice of public meeting was circulated to the required agencies and property owners with 120 meters of the property on December 18th, 2019. Public notice signs were posted on the property on or before December 24th, 2019. The Planning and Development Department hosted a public open house for this application on January 7th, 2020. Notice of the public open house was included on the notice of public meeting. The open house was attended by 0 members of the public. The procedure to be followed this evening will be to present Department of Planning and Development Report 2020-4, hear any comments from the applicant, receive questions of clarification from council to the applicant or planning staff, open the meeting to the public for comments and questions, announce the requirements under the Planning Act for written notice of passage of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and a brief explanation of future meetings regarding this application. At this time, I would like to present Planning and Development Public Hearing Report 2020-4. The subject property is located at 180 Fair Street. The property currently has a vacant 2-story commercial building with apartments above and an accessory building. To the north, south, east, and west is a mixed-use area with both commercial and residential zoned lands. The city official plan designates the property as mixed-use area, as you can see in red here. The mixed-use area will encourage development of neighborhood-oriented small-scale commercial uses, townhouses, and apartment buildings of 2 to 5 stories, have a minimum height of 2 stories, and be encouraged to combine commercial uses on the ground floor and residential uses on the upper floors, and be subject to policies of Section 2.4.3 and Section 3.6 of this plan, the official plan. Section 2.4.3 of the official plan references the city's 15% intensification target within the urban area. And Section 3.6 references the downtown commercial designation. The predominant uses in the downtown commercial designation include retail stores, professional and business offices, personal service shops, restaurants, specialty shops, residential uses, subject to appropriate density requirements and policies, community facilities, parks, institutional uses, public open space, and on-road bicycle routes. The City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw zones the property as neighborhood commercial, as you can see outlined in red here. The neighborhood commercial zone permits animal care establishments, a convenience store, daycares, accessory dwelling units, personal service business, takeout restaurants, and uses, structures, and buildings accessory thereto. The application for zoning bylaw amendment proposes to change the zoning to fourth density residential. The R4 zone permits detached, semi-detached, triplex, fourplex, block and street townhouse dwellings, apartment buildings, and public apartment buildings, and uses, structures, and buildings accessory thereto. The purpose of this application proposes to change the zoning from neighborhood commercial to R4-53, which is a special provision of the R4 zone. Once again, the zoning bylaw is being sought to permit a 6-unit apartment building on the property. This survey sketch shows the existing building on the property. As you can see, it's close to the property lines already. Essentially, the zoning bylaw amendment will be to convert the building into the apartment building. There are no proposed changes to the exterior of the building. This shows the special provisions here that are being sought. So you can see here that the minimum lot frontage is requested to be 10.973 meters and so on here. This will be the actual amendment part of the bylaw. So staff has not received any correspondence from members of the public. An open house was held on January 7th, and it was attended by the agent, owner, and planning staff. And once again, no members of the public appeared. City and agency comments. The Port Colborne Fire Department has no objection to the application. Fire safety items are to be dealt with at the time of the building permit application. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority has no objection. And the Regional Municipality of Niagara has no objection, subject to a holding provision for the submission of a Phase 1 environmental site assessment. They also recommend the inclusion of warning clauses in the site plan agreement in reference to noise from the nearby factory and their regional pumping station, which is nearby. At this time, Your Worship, I would like to invite the applicant to comment on the application.
Thank you, David. State your name and address.
Joe Tomeno, 42 Carlton Avenue, Welland, Ontario. Your Worship and members of council, I'll just make a few comments and then I'll open it up for questions. But as David explained, the proposal for 180 Fair Street, it's been vacant for, I would say 10 plus years, and the proposal in front of you, or the rezoning application, is to take the existing vacant building and convert it into 6 residential units. Each apartment is approximately 450 square feet to 650 square feet, and they're all 2-bedroom apartments. I'd just like to add, regarding the official plan, the East Waterfront Secondary Plan, which covers this area also, specifically talks to 2 policies that this rezoning fulfills. And one is to repair and renovate existing vacant, underutilized buildings. And the second, excuse me, and the second policy is to attract new investment and development of vacant properties. I would say that the proposal in front of you meets those policies of the East Waterfront Secondary Plan. And I'd just like to open up for questions if there is any.
Thank you, Mr. Pano. Any questions from council to the applicant? Councillor Demmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming and speaking with us this evening. My one question is with regards to parking. I noticed that there's considerably less parking than we would normally see there. What is going to be done to accommodate the cars?
Well, the existing property can accommodate 2 parking spaces, and there's also, excuse me, the possibility of an additional parking space in the garage if need be, and then the other provision would be on-street parking. These units are being marketed as affordable units, so a lot of the people that might be renting these units might not have access to a vehicle, so it might not be necessary.
So in the case of, we do have a lot of problems in that area with on-street parking and snow removal. What will be done to accommodate that? Because, you know, there is an opportunity for 6 units to have 6 cars. So what happens there?
Like I said, we can only accommodate 3 spaces on site, and then there is legal on-street parking for the overflow parking. But physically, the property just doesn't have that space to. We're working with the existing footprint of the building. We're not actually adding to the building. It's an underutilized property, and we're trying to make it work as best we can.
Yeah. But certainly the units are needed, there's no question there. Would there be any consideration given to possibly working with a local landowner, such as maybe the hotel across the road, seeing if some parking spots could be secured there?
Oh, for sure. From a marketability standpoint, if he needs to provide those spaces, he would definitely have to, if he wants to rent them. But the owner is pretty confident that he doesn't need to, that the 3 spaces or the 2 spaces are adequate to market those units.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to the presenter, and perhaps our planner could comment. Is there any assurance you can give to us? These are meant to be annual residential leases?
Oh, correct. They're standard rental accommodations.
Okay, very good. Dave, I don't know if you could comment. Can people, I guess my concern is that people often start off with one proposal, an owner changes in that, and it takes on a different use. And we've all had experiences where they've gone for overnight use or monthly use or weekly use. So I just want to make sure that the character of what's being presented today can be codified, and we can count on that happening.
David?
So currently, the definition for apartment building is for long-term habitability. Short-term rental would be more towards a hotel, which would not be permitted in this area. Then again, we don't necessarily have a restriction on short-term like Airbnb type rentals, but those are only used in lower density residential areas, such as like just a single detached dwelling.
Thank you.
Okay, Gary? Thank you. Questions to the proponent or to staff?
Staff.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Through your worship to Dave, are the spaces allocated for parking based on what the applicant's comments were? Are they adequate according to our planning documents?
From what I see, I believe they are. We haven't seen any specifics on the actual dimensions of the property or the parking spaces, but I believe from what I saw that they would be adequate.
Okay. And if they are not, would they not need a minor variance?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor? Good.
Sorry, or it could be included in this that the parking spaces are less than what is required.
Okay. Any further questions to staff or the proponent? Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one other question. Sorry, I'd forgotten to ask it before, but could you define what you mean by affordable? Because that is always.
Well, for the city of Port Colborne, I think your 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at 850 in that range.
So you're not going to a true definition of affordable. You're just saying you're going to try to make it
No,
more affordable.
yeah.
Okay.
There's the affordability in relation to the rental market in Port Colborne.
Okay.
I mean, they're two-bedroom apartments, so they're not huge apartments, so the affordability would be because of the size of the property will dictate that rent.
Okay, it's just, I'm a little confused about that, because people will think we're having affordable housing when, if you're looking at social housing, affordable housing is 30% of
No,
your income. If you're looking at 80% of the market rate, if you're looking at developers affordability, so it's a term that doesn't always
Yeah, it's
get
not
understood.
social, it's not a subsidized housing
Right.
building, it's market-based, but you bring in 6 additional units onto the market, so they'll have some affordability based on the size of the units.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor, thank you. No further questions? Thanks, Mr. Tomano.
Thank you.
So this time, David, we can have questions from the public? Correct?
Yes, before I do that, I would like
Yep.
to make some statements here. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before a decision on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed by council, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Port Colborne Council to the local planning appeal tribunal. Also, if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submission to the City of Port Colborne before a decision on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed by council, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing or an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there is reasonable grounds to do so. At this time, I would like to welcome any interested members of the public to speak if they wish.
Anybody here on behalf of this public meeting? Yes? Come on up, state your name and your address to the podium.
My name is Julie Barker. We have a house on Mitchell Street, but we live in Welland. And in Welland, we're seeing a lot of this type of housing going in. We're seeing new build and we're seeing renovations. And my concern is the quality and the size of the units. There's a direct correlation between mental health and the size and the quality of the units. And this is right around the corner from our house. And so we're seeing a building that technically should be maybe a 4-unit being made into a 6. We've seen new build in Welland where there's been applications where it's a 35-unit and they've varied it to 53. And there's no questions, what about the garbage? What about what facilities are made for the garbage? What facilities are made for the tenants' bicycles or e-bikes or anything? There was no questions around that. It's always the same thing. Well, there are units that are, we need units like that. You don't need those units at all cost. We see it time and time again in Welland, and just because it's on the east side of Port Colborne doesn't mean that you put in units at all cost and say, well, we need these units, because the bigger picture is quality of life, and they're awfully small units. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
My name is George.
No, you got to come up to the podium, please. Thanks, George.
Okay, thank you.
Name and address.
Okay, my name is George Inuit Beaulieu. I live at 644 Second Concession, Port Colborne.
Yep.
This unit, what was it before? A 1 unit or 2 unit or apartment? What was it?
Joe's Meat Market.
Huh?
Joe's Meat Market.
Joe's Euphallses.
Okay, whatever.
Meat Market, yeah. So it's commercial on the main floor and apartments over top.
Okay. Now you want to make it into a 4 unit.
6-unit building.
6, okay. Now, okay, he just says not enough parking. How about for the city sewage company? The sewage guys? The sewage, is that the whole, those 6 units?
Yes, the capacity of our system is fine for that.
Oh, okay, that's why I
Yes.
want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was popping in my head. Eh?
Yeah.
So-
No, it's, yeah,
That passed and that's okay.
we're
Okay.
fine, yeah.
I just want to know about the sewage problems that might
Yeah.
occur.
And if it was found that it wasn't adequate, then it would be up to the applicant to fund that.
To fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just
But that is-
popped my head, I just want to know. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, George. Okay,
I'm not sure if the applicant would like to come and comment to,
yep, you can
Any of
ask,
those?
yep.
I just want to make one comment to the comment or the previous presentation, is that the, as of today, we submitted building plans, preliminary building plans. So there's 6 units, and they're not small units, they're all 2 bedrooms, like I said. And the plans will be attached to probably the planning report that comes to council in the future, but they're not, they're approximately 350 to 550 square feet, 2 bedrooms, washroom, kitchen and a living area, and washroom facilities, laundry facilities. So this building, to this type of renovation, needs a building permit and a site plan agreement. So those issues will be addressed at that time.
Good, thank you. So just to confirm, David, so all the garbage and those types of issues, lighting, will all come under the site plan agreement with the city?
That's correct.
And then
And
any-
the region has advised that they do qualify for curbside pickup, so it won't be required to be a private contractor on the site.
Okay. All right. Council? Okay, go ahead, David.
I have one more statement to make here. If you wish to be notified of the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make written request to the clerk. Only those persons in public bodies that give the clerk a written request of notice of the adoption and passing of the zoning bylaw amendment will be given notice. So if I can direct your attention to the back of the room in the committee room, there's a sign-in sheet if you would like to have a notice of the decision. Please fill out your name and address on there and it'll get sent to you. This concludes the public hearing under the Planning Act. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will be placed on council agenda at a future meeting.
Okay, great, David, thank you. So council, the recommendation from staff is that public hearing report number 2020-04 regarding an application for a zoning bylaw amendment, file number D14-06-19 for 180 Fair Street, be received for information purposes. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Wells, Councillor Demaray, any questions? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. This meeting is now adjourned. Call to order the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole. Madam Clerk, introduction of addendum items or delegation items.
There are none this evening.
Okay. Mover and a seconder for confirmation of the agenda. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Clayliff, any questions? All those in favor? That's carried. Any disclosures of interest? Councillor?
Conflict of interest on item number 7, as I am an employee of Sullivan Mahoney, a solicitor for Rankin Public Quarries.
Thank you. Councillor Wells?
Veterinary conflict of interest on item number 7 in regards to that property value of my home.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? We have the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole minutes, 29-19, held on December 9th, 2019. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Demaray, Councillor Bruno, any questions with those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Bodnar, I'll start with you.
Item 7, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clayliff, Councillor Beauregard, Councillor Bruno,
Item 3, please.
Councillor Bagu,
I'm good.
Councillor Demaray, Councillor Wells.
Item 2.
Item 2. Need approval of the items not requiring separate discussion. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Beauregard, Councillor Clayliff. Any questions? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. There are no presentations, and we have one delegation this evening. We have Kurt and Tammy Peterson concerning a partnership with the city regarding issues with Pleasant Beach and Pleasant Beach Road, just found on page 17 of your agenda. Our delegation is here. Yep. Just press the red button and you're set to go.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public for giving us the opportunity to speak with you here this evening. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Just to quickly introduce ourselves and give you a little bit of background, my name is Kurt. This is Tammy Peterson. We are originally from the Hamilton area, and we've been business owners in the Port Colborne area for about the last 5 years. Specifically, we purchased a property along Pleasant Beach Road, sort of informally or maybe formally known as Pleasant Beach Campground. So we are right on Pleasant Beach Road, and then our property line on this side would be shared with Shirks and Shores. Not right on the beach itself, but about probably 300 meters back, if you will. So that's, again, just kind of an intro of who we are and how we sort of came to the Pleasant Beach area. We purchased the campground about 5 years ago, and in our opinion, we sort of bought it at what we would consider a vital time for what the property was. It was at a bit of a tipping point in terms of needs of infrastructure upgrade as well as overall cosmetics. It was running the risk of becoming an obsolete business in the industry if it didn't get some fairly immediate attention. So we've spent the last 4 to 5 years reinvesting in the business itself, and subsequently in the community and the tourism industry in the area. Just to highlight a few things, we've renovated all of our buildings. We've done an enormous amount of landscaping. The tree maintenance was required to the point where there was safety issues. There's large mature trees there that were shedding branches at an alarming rate. We've developed a recycling center and a garbage management system for what we saw as something that was out of control and probably contributing to some of the issues that we'll talk about shortly. The electrical system was massively under-resourced, I guess, for what the building or for what the property was currently housing. And the water system had its own challenges as well. So, like I said, in the last 4 to 5 years, we've come up with solutions, or at least partial solutions, for all of those, and anything that we haven't found a full solution for, we're still working on. It's not off our radar. That also, of course, gave us the opportunity to get to know the people that have an interest in the area of Pleasant Beach, as well as some of the challenges that probably you folks know as well or better than we do that have seemed to be persisting along that stretch of road for a number of reasons. Before we get into the challenges, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't first recognize the efforts that have gone in from the city's side of things. It is dramatically better, in my opinion, and I think Tammy's as well, and hopefully the public's, compared to what it was, I'm just guessing, 4 or 5 years ago. There was major safety issues in terms of the congestion and the parking and things that were kind of going on down there. And as the city did commit to sorting a lot of those things out, we've seen huge improvements. There's no question about that. That being said, there are still some issues that persist, and from our perspective, I don't know how you kind of take these things or take these solutions to the next level without kind of having resources, probably specifically human resources there on an almost continual basis. So the things that come to mind immediately, and again, you've probably heard these things already, is the garbage. We're aware and we understand that Pleasant Beach isn't a beach per se. It's a road access. And I do fully understand that, and I understand the difference. I think the point, though, that sometimes gets lost is to people visiting the community, that really is semantics. What they have there is sand meeting water, and that will always be a beach, and they're going to use it as such. And there's been a lot of people who enjoy that beach and have for generations. So we can't overemphasize the importance, we think, of maintaining community access to that area, and subsequently the need to then manage the byproduct of allowing community access. So the things that we see that continue to be challenges is parking. And again, so much better than it was, can't stress that enough. But we obviously still do get pretty disgruntled visitors to the community of Port Colborne when they find that their car was towed and they feel unjustly. So that always continues to be an issue. Garbage collection, I think, and you know, I'm open to being enlightened on this as well, but it seems to me that there's two separate garbage situations down there. There is the community of cottage owners that have a unique garbage pickup situation from what I understand, and then there's just the overflow of garbage that you're going to get from people visiting a beach for the day. And certainly, at least from what we think we see both happening, where the garbage collection from the cottage community can sometimes get a little bit out of control, or it can be left, or to be honest, I don't know what's happening exactly, but we see the results of it. And then definitely the garbage along the beach. From what I understand, there was a couple of bins left there near the end of last year, or maybe for the whole season, but a couple of bins, you know, on a hot Saturday in July will get you till about 9:30 a.m. in that area, to be honest, and they'll be full and overflowing. So those are some of the challenges that we see. And I guess the other one that is less pleasant to talk about is the human waste component. There's no washrooms down there, and that beach can get very, very busy. So there's the public side, and then of course there's Shirks and Shores that owns a large portion of that beach. And there's, you know, we can split hairs all day long on which population's doing it, but there's a problem with people urinating and apparently defecating on the beach. It's becoming not only a unpleasant thing, never mind the pun, but also a sanitary concern, I guess. So as I mentioned, we own the campground about 300 meters down the road. We've subsequently bought a property that is 2 properties back from the beach. It used to be a restaurant, and our plan is to reopen it as a restaurant. So we're going through the process now to make that happen. And I guess what we're here to kind of discuss, or to put to you folks, is that we have a lot of resources right there in that area, and we can't help but think that there could be some synergy to create a partnership between ourselves and the city to help manage some of these issues. I won't pretend to have complete solutions, but rather wanted to get a dialogue going and see if there was an appetite to kind of pursue some potential solutions. Things that we have done, I mean, we have roughly about 100 units in our campground. There are roughly 100 cottages, and I'm just shooting from the hip with numbers. And in terms of the waste management, we understand now what it takes to kind of manage that. We do curbside pickup within our campground, so we've made sure that we have the resources we need to do that. We established a recycling center. Took public education to the people, especially coming from different municipalities where they have different rules about what recycling is. But a year, 2 years, we've got very, very good compliance with it, and we've probably, I'm going to say, we've cut our garbage by 70% and transferred it into recycling. And then I guess, you know, again, we see potential synergy between the fact that we'll have the restaurant, which does, of course, have washroom facilities. It's a very short walk from the beach to that restaurant. And if there's a way that, you know, again, we can enter some kind of partnership that prevents the sanitary things from happening that are happening on the beach, we'd be more than happy to engage in those conversations. I think that's all I really have formally. Do you have anything to add right now?
No. Did you want to talk about the other type of garbage collection or cottages?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, as I mentioned, I think there's, and I don't pretend to know the details of what the arrangement is for garbage collection for the cottage association, but if I understand correctly, they don't currently have curbside pickup. And if I understand correctly, the appetite from the residents is to have that. And again, being we have the resources to do that on small roads right within our campground, it just occurs to me that, again, there could be synergy for a partnership there where we can help solve some of those problems, maybe with curbside pickup to the subsequent station where I believe it's picked up. Again, we could talk about it.
Good. Thank you, Kurt and Tammy. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Kurt and Tammy. Great conversation, exactly. I think the conversation we've been hoping would happen at some point, at least I have. And I wonder, Mr. Mayor, if you need something from council directing staff to meet with Kurt and Tammy and see how we could, maybe push this along. I won't speak for Harry, but I think if Councillor Wells and myself may want to be involved in that, just, because we've dealt with that. Of course, we'll keep Councillor Butters informed because she was knee-deep into all that stuff when she sat at this table. But I wonder if it needs a direction from council, I'd be happy to
You've
make that.
You've read my notes. So before we go there, let's see if there's any
Yep.
other questions then. Okay. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your excellent presentation. I just wanted to ask, in the 2019 season, did you own that restaurant?
No, not for the operating season. We took possession of it in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it? I've been down there, but it was always after hours or during the week. Was it operating last year?
My understanding is the previous owner ran it in an extremely limited capacity. I don't know that it was ever open and serving actual meals. I understand they also had a bit of a catering business, so I'm not sure I can answer it, but
Okay.
not in the context that I would see it as an open restaurant. I had the same impression you did. Yeah.
This is going to require a lot of speculation on your part. But I've watched from afar the goings and comings at Pleasant Beach, and I am concerned that some of the concern I have, quite frankly, is if you're buying a commercial business down there at the end of Pleasant Beach Road, is it not fair to say that you would actually like to encourage more traffic there? Because a customer base for you, the more bums on seats, as they say, or the more people buying an ice cream cone, the better it is as an entrepreneur. And so I'm concerned that whole area is fraught with a bunch of issues. If you took 66 feet wide in the depth of Pleasant Beach road allowance, you could somehow come up with a capacity issue. A blanket, 3 people to this square footage. And I think the reality is that area is handling more people because as the ownership of Shirkston Beaches is not enforcing their property line or the fence line. And so my concern is that what you have is an area that overnight could change the width of Pleasant Beach Road, change the volume. And I'm not so sure with your campground, with 100 cottages, that, and you used the right word, but I would put a different turn to it, community access. Well, I think it would not be a stretch to say that a lot of people are coming from outside the community, and a lot of people are coming, and the biggest push has been what they've done at Crystal Beach. And like most things is, whether it's housing in Grimsby from Toronto or a beach, people will move to the next closest access point of a good beach. And so it's easier to go to Pleasant Beach than it is Centennial or Nickel. And so my realistic concern there is that, unless you're providing more parking, and kudos to you if you want to do the the sanitary services, because I think that would be a bonus, is that this whole thing, I think, needs to be looked at in a holistic way. I haven't been here for only one, but the last 8 years. But, you know, looking at it as afar, it's an cleanup or not, it's an increasing bone of contention to the residents that are there, the parking issues. And so I'm concerned for you as entrepreneurs and as a taxpayer, but I'm also concerned that this whole thing in terms of this whole process at Pleasant Beach, I don't think has been looked at from the pluses and minuses, sort of the SWOT analysis, if you will. And so I think that whilst that conversation can't be anything but helpful, that we may have two competing interests.
Totally understand your perspective. I think that maybe the best way to represent an answer to that is that we've purchased and built a business plan based on 5 parking spots that are currently there. So our plan is to I guess, for lack of a better term, capitalize, if you will, off the beauty of the area, not the volume per se. We believe the volume's already there. There's an enormous amount of people along both the Shirkston Beach that would have free walking access, as well as Pleasant Beach, as well as the cottagers, and then the community that we have at our campground. That will be our primary target audience for us.
So it's more about foot traffic for us.
Okay, Councillor? Thank you. Thank you. Any, Harry?
Through you, Your Worship, to the Petersons. We've had some issues with regards to septic systems in that area. With regards to what you're proposing related to the restaurant, I know there's facilities behind the restaurant. Were they designed for the restaurant, or were they just sort of something that was there from historical? And would there be, if they were required, they would have to be modified significantly to accommodate the foot traffic, as you say, which would be greater than what we would see than normal. So
Yeah.
just some questions in regards to that system.
We've had some preliminary discussions with a representative from the Ministry of Environment about what might be involved there, and they've assured us that there are solutions, and it might be as simple as it needs to be transferred off-site, sewage and waste, to a certain capacity. So maybe it would be a requirement that the tanks be pumped out every so often, transported away, but we really wouldn't be able to get an exact sort of hold on that until we got an idea of the daily water flow from it, and then we would re-engage with them.
Okay, Councillor? Yep, go ahead.
One more question, Your Worship. Your restaurant, is that restaurant to be a sit-in dining type restaurant, or is it to be more of a order and takeout restaurant?
More of an order and takeout restaurant. So what we hope to do is, much like the restaurant was operating previously, which was not this past year, but in the previous years, I think they had been there about 8 years or so, and they had tables on the dining patio, and so our plan will be to do the same type of thing. We'll have some dining on the patio, but more of a walk up, take out, and if you want to walk it to the beach, walk back to the campground, or to your cottage, wherever you're headed from there. We also, one other thing of note, regarding the parking. So we do have, space at the campground that could accommodate more parking if we wanted to, even though we are looking at foot traffic as being our top priority. But we did purchase a Niagara Airbus to shuttle from our campground to the restaurant. So in order to, again, try to help out with the parking issues right at the end of the road there.
Okay, Councillor? Any further questions from Council? So back to Councillor Bodnar. I really think that you want operations, bylaws, planning, parks, and the region with our staff at the table to come back with a concrete plan. I mean, not necessarily whether it's through Kurt and Tammy, but as you said, I mean, this was here when I served on this council. This was here when Councillor Bruno was on this council. Councillor Butters before she moved to the region. So, you know, it keeps popping its head up, but I think, you know, it does need that finality to it because, you know, we do seem to fix one thing and then something else pops up. So I assume that's how you want to move forward with this, to get everyone involved on board to come up with a final plan.
You must have been reading my notes, Mr. Mayor. No, that's
I discussed this today with staff, so.
I think that's exactly what we have to do. Look, there's some challenges, but this is the first opportunity we've had to improve something that's been a constant mess. So let's move ahead with what we can, see where it works. And actually, that restaurant, I've eaten in there a number of times when it was going. It was quite nice. They did a good thing. And also, the restaurant is limited by the size. Like, you're not going to have 100 people sitting in there. You know, there's a very, very small area. But done right, it's great. And you guys having the other business right there, this is a great thing. If the city can partner somehow with you, I think we got to look at what it is and get a report back to staff and say, or from staff to council, and do what we can do with what makes sense. So I'd recommend, Mr. Mayor, if we can direct this to staff and come back with a report.
So, acting CAO, because it's not a beach, like this is not a municipal beach or a park, so, you know, do we give it to Ashley to run with, or do we give it to operations to run with? How do you feel moving forward? We should direct staff, like which staff member should we give the lead on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that I think a lot of the staff that you mentioned, I think community services, operations has to be involved, bylaw has to be involved with regard to parking and so on, operations with regard to the waste management, the region. I think if we get some representatives from each department to sort of come together and have some initial discussions, and potentially with these people here, so that they can get their ideas on the table, and then bring forward some type of report to come back to council as to what the issues may be and what the challenges are, and hopefully some options and solutions to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Sinet. So in essence, as of tomorrow, that you'll be stepping down from the acting CAO and full-time treasurer, we can, why don't we give this to Scott with regards to getting that staff together and moving that forward. Is that good for council? Councillor Walz?
Yes, Your Worship. One of the things that struck me on this was that we have received the master plan for the Parks and Recreation, and one of the key issues in there is the development of the waterfront. This is part of waterfront, and there are other similar waterfronts to that one. So I would suggest that the lead should be Ashley's group.
Ashley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with that, and in fact, I had prepared some comments this evening to share and refer to the Parks and Rec Master Plan, because it is in fact identified there with regard to identifying a strategy to enhance and preserve public access to the waterfront, and not only areas or the area like Pleasant Beach Road, but also the other road allowances that we have leading to Lake Erie. So I think it's appropriate for Community and Economic Development to be the lead department, and it'd be our pleasure to coordinate with staff and work with the CAO on bringing this forward to council with options.
Great, thank you, Ashley. So, Councillor?
Just that if there is meetings, can Councillor Wells and myself be involved in that? We might have
Certainly.
something to throw in, or we can get a feel for it and
Yeah.
and relate stuff back to the public that may have a concern. And I'd just like to say one thing. I don't think this will bring any more traffic to that area. I think it'll help deal with what's there already. Physically, it's limited to what can be there, but if we can take care of some of that, I think it's a good step.
Okay. So, staff, Dan, Ashley, Stephen, so you understand what the direction is of council, so moving forward, we'll make sure that tomorrow in our meetings with Scott, we'll bring him up to date on this, and we'll go from there, and then you can, through Scott, get the meetings in order, make sure the 2 ward councillors are part of that, all right? Okay? Council, you're set with that? Good, thank you. Great, thank you, and staff will be in touch. You want to do more? You want to do that? Okay. So if I can have a motion moved by Councillor Bodnar and moved by Councillor Wells to proceed with that direction, is that fine then, Council? This is asked, the clerk's asked for this. Okay, so any questions to it? Comments? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. We all set with it? Thanks. So on to the mayor's report. Before I get into my report this evening, just like to, on behalf of council, wish everyone a happy new year, and let's hope this type of weather that we've had over the last little while stays. It's good for the budget. It's easier to get around. On Thursday and Friday of this week, members of marine organizations from across Canada and the United States will be assembling in Toronto for a series of meetings. There's a great opportunity to network with marine companies, port authorities, and support organizations. I will be attending the Highway H2O annual general meeting on Thursday, followed by the Chamber of Marine Commerce annual Lunch and Learn and the Marine Club Dinner and Learn on Friday evening. I'm looking forward to establishing and continuing to develop relationships with various members to bring new ideas to Port Colborne as we look to the redevelopment of our waterfront and marine usage. If you haven't taken a walk down West Street lately, you will be surprised to see a total of 7 Great Lakes ships moored in Port Colborne in the winter. We have 3 off the east wall on West Street. We have 2 between the bridge and the lock, and we have 2 at the stone dock. Also, we'll be having 2 McKeel Marine barges. They'll be arriving later this week, and they'll be berthing at our dock at the elevator. So that's something that we garner our fees from for that, because we do own that wall. Winter berthing brings a boost to our economy and jobs in the city as the shipping companies source everything from food to supplies for their winter retrofits. The closure of the Welland Ship Canal to traffic also presents a time for major repairs to the Seaway bridges. Bridge 19 on Main Street is scheduled for a 1-day closure on Wednesday of this week, and Bridge 19A, Mellenby Avenue, is scheduled for a 1-month closure, which we expect to start next week. Please keep in tune with our website at the City of Port Colborne for the latest bridge closures. The city distributes approximately $30,000 annually to nonprofit, charitable, and service organizations that benefit the citizens of Port Colborne and enhance the quality of life in our community. Council recently updated the grant policy and application form, and all information can be found on our website. The city is now accepting the first round of grant applications until Friday, January 31st, 2020. The City of Port Colborne is looking to gather feedback to improve our customer service delivery by launching a customer satisfaction survey. Input from the community will assist the city with the modernization of our service delivery and improve our frontline service to residents and visitors. Participate by completing the survey, which takes approximately 5 minutes, by visiting www.portcolborne.ca/page/customer service. Hard copies of the survey are also available at City Hall and the Port Colborne Public Library. The survey is part of the city's implementation of the Municipal Modernization Program, a provincial grant program that provided the municipality with $711,467 to modernize service delivery and improve frontline services. Other improvements include corporate branding, updating our customer service policy, redesigning front counters at City Hall, upgrading our phone system, which includes the return to live answering. There you go. That was a promise I made in the election, and that's a promise kept. Thank you. That started it as a pilot project in November, and it's full-fledged. Now, the only thing about that is if you do call, it will ask if you do know the extension. which most of us don't know, even though we are part of the city. We don't have that list, especially in our vehicles when you're calling City Hall. But if you wait till that prompt goes by, the live voice then picks it up. So it allows people that are calling it that know who they want. They can type in their number, or punch in their number. It takes them to that staff member, wait, and then you'll get that live voice, and that person will either take care of you right then and there or put you through to the proper person. So thank you, Madam Clerk, for that. And also, we are updating our website and doing a whole redesign of that, which is long overdue. Some snow portent information. Yes, we don't want that. We've been fortunate not to get much snow yet this winter, but it is coming. Remember, during a snow event, don't park your car on the road. Clear your sidewalks within 24 hours of the end of the snow event. Help your neighbors, and check our website for specific details and snow portent updates. That's from our communications officer, Michelle. And Sports Fest is fast approaching. And if the winter is getting you down, it's time to get out and enjoy our upcoming Sports Fest, running February the 7th to the 9th. Providing a sense of community pride and greater awareness of each community group, Sports Fest offers activities for all ages, promotes a healthy lifestyle, and is an opportunity for organized fundraising within the city of Port Colborne. The Mayor's Cup Invitational Hockey Tournament. Bryony, I know you're retired, but you can still help coach. I'll be playing in that. Other councillors can join as well. We have indoor volleyball. There's a tournament being held. There's free family skating and swimming and YMCA activities. There's music trivia, snow golf, snow pitch, ball hockey, euchre tournament, soup cook-off downtown. And they're just some of the events that are offered to the community. And new this year is the Polar Plunge to raise money for Special Olympics. So keep an eye out for that. Get your favorite winter bathing suit on. And my understanding, it's going to be off the docks at the boat launch. So bundle up the family and get out and participate. That ends my report. Any questions? Thank you, Council. Regional Councillor Butters.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Steele. Glad to be here with all of you, and wish you all a really good 2020 coming up. We deserve that. This will be quick and short and sweet. There are a couple of things that I want to share with you. The Roy T. Adams Humanitarian Award submissions are now open, so if you know of somebody that you think would be deserving, it's on the Region's website. It shows you what the criteria is, the application. So I would urge you to look into that one. And as well, the 50th anniversary of the Region is this year. And we're actually going to be meeting for the first time tomorrow afternoon to look at how we're going to celebrate that. So I would really welcome any input from any of you or any of the people in the community. If they have any good ideas, pass them along. I'd be happy to. I've got some ideas on my own, but sometimes, they might be a little bit crazy. I don't know. So I'm really open to other people's suggestions as well. And that's really all I have. We just got back last week, and this week is a very busy week with standing committees and work coming up Tuesday and Wednesday. So I'm here if you have any questions I can take back. And that's all I got.
Through your worship to Council Butters, what's the budget process with Niagara? Like, where are you in the region? Is it already done? Done. It's done? Okay. What was the final percentage?
5 points.
Yeah. So, which was, we normally wait for that, but it's out to us already, so make our ours go a lot faster. Okay. All right, Councillor? Great. Thanks, Barb. Councillor items, we're going to go to staff responses to previous councillors' inquiries first. Staff, anything to add? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to announce, based on the council direction in November, that on the second floor counter and soon to be on our website, there's an update on the status of the community-based risk assessment.
Okay. Anything else, staff? Nothing? Okay, Councilor's items. I'll start on my right. Councilor Wells, anything this evening?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 4 items. The first one, even though our weather has been good, we do still have some problems, and I'll pass this on to Steve through Your Worship. We have some issues with waters at some of the drains still, and they still need to be looked at. The Old Mill Creek, or some neighbors there, or some residents there are floating away. Same thing with Beaver Dams and the Michener as well. So even though the snow stays put, the water kind of flows. So that's some of the issues that are still ongoing with the weather. Another issue with regards to a beach end, we've had a transport trailer truck stuck down on the beach on Weaver Road. Why he was down there, I have no idea. He went down there at night. He just missed our tractor that's used for the pumping, which would have added to the issues if he would have clipped it. But we need to take a look at some of these road ends. And as an interim step, through Your Worship to Steve, is it possible to put up one of the sawhorse barriers there just in case we get another transport truck coming down that road for some whatever reason?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Wells, yes, of course, we could put something out there. I'll talk to the guys and we might be able to do something a little more permanent, but still temporary until we can actually get some gates installed, if that's what council chooses as well.
Okay.
So we can bring that forth through a budget item as well this year.
Thank you, Steve, but nothing too extravagant, because the way the weather's been, might get washed away.
Disappear, yeah.
The third thing, through Your Worship, again to Steve on this one here, thank you for the response to the Ward 4 meeting notes. They were sent out to all of the departments. We will be following up on those as we go through the year, and Steve's given us some valuable feedback on those already. Okay. And last but not least, Your Worship, through you to Dan, back in July there were 2 bylaws that were asked to have reviewed and updated. One was the discharge of firearms bylaw, which we anticipated would come back last year, and the other one was the noise. I was just wondering what the status of that might be, Dan.
Dan?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Wells, legal right now is reviewing the discharge of firearms, and legal is involved again with the noise bylaw and with the other bylaw that you didn't mention, that is the site alteration bylaw.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it.
Good, thank you. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things this evening. First, the Snow Buddies program that is offered through the region apparently is not working in Port Colborne in any case. They're not able to find volunteers that are going to match up with people. So I've spent the last couple of weeks trying to match up some help for some seniors, because this is what allows them to stay in their homes. Without these assistances, they can't stay there. And I've been fairly successful in being able to match up some resources for them, but those are the seniors who have the ability to pay. The ones who don't haven't been successful at all. So if anyone out there watching right now, or anyone in the audience right now thinks that they may be able to help out doing some snow shoveling for seniors, it's a program through the region. It's called Snow Buddies. The region will match you up with a senior and you can help out all you can. That'd be a great thing. There's also Leaf Buddies for the fall. But this is what keeps our people in their homes, so we need to be able to do these things. So if that can help, that would be good.
Did you talk to Nancy with regards to that at all?
No, I haven't. Actually, I talked to Sherry Hansen, who helped me out a little bit with that too. We went on Facebook and got some people.
Yeah, touch base with Nancy, because I know she's had phone calls in the late fall with regards to some volunteers.
Okay, I will.
So talk to Nancy. She has a list for those that call in, and I know she has some people on that.
Okay, thank you very much. So that was certainly one. I'd also like to pass along a thank you to Steve. Steve, I had actually an occasion to have about 4 people call me over Christmas and thank me for the great work I've done for them, but really the work has been yours. So I just want to thank you, because it's immediate. When I call, it's within 24 hours and people are getting their needs satisfied, which is a great thing. So thank you again so much for that. The other thing I wanted to bring forward was to Dan. Dan, Could you maybe give me an update on where the housing strategy is sitting? I'm going to be attending a meeting very shortly, and with the STEP group in Welland, and they would like to know where we're at with this.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Desmarais. I'm in the process of actually writing the terms to go out to the public, more so to consultants, to actually get a price on what it would cost to actually complete the strategy. I've had conversation with our acting CAO regarding the monies to complete the work.
Okay.
So it is something that is in the process, that I've told people it's going to be done sooner than later. It's definitely on my radar, and I'm expecting to have something back to council in the next month, just to let you know what the next steps are.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. That's everything for me.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baggett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Desmarais had one item I had, was for the whole year of 2019, I've seen a great improvement with our staff to the residents of Port Colborne. And the phone calls are getting returned, people are showing up and knocking on people's houses to have a problem. And I just like to thank staff, especially operations. They've been exceptionally very good this year. And acting director, Steve, great job. And the other issue was the Steel Street storm drain. We've been having problems with the sand building up there north of Manor there, and I must say the city has been very vigilant keeping that open during the wind, and some of the problems that residents further up the street regarding some flooding and that, and kudos to Director Steve. His group is meeting with these residents at their residence and talking one-on-one, and it's just great. And I'm getting great feedback from the residents here, and it's like Councillor Desmarais, it's not her and I, it's these guys here that are doing the great job. We're just hooking them up with the right person, I guess we should say. So that's it for that one. The other item is the Eagle Marsh drain. I took a walk out to the sand there. I almost had to pack a lunch because it took us a long time to walk out there. And I knew 2019 we did plan to dredge it, but the plans were changed because it had good flow, even though it made a big left-hand turn. But I see now we could be having, I got to word this carefully, we could be or may be having problems with erosion on the shorelines of neighboring properties. So I really like operations to take a serious look at that and see if we can take care of that.
Okay.
And that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And as you said, and Councillor Desmarais, it's the teamwork that happens here at City Hall, so, or citywide, I should say. Thank you. Councillor Bruno? Good. You're good? Councillor?
You're good.
Through your worship to staff, I'd like to add on Councillor Wells, one of the topics he brought up actually, which is the transport truck and stuck on Weaver Road. I frequent that area, and I actually was there to observe the truck stuck on that road. It happened during the day and was there onto the night, and the truck driver, clearly not from around here, I would assume, because no one in their right mind would do that. And this individual, in a frantic panic, went to a neighboring resident and entered their house, not fully, but opened the door without the door being opened, and that itself was caused some concerns. And anything that we can do to prevent this Weaver Road, that access has been increasingly receiving more traffic. I go there at night and I see cars on that beach, on that access there, and what they're doing, I don't know. It has a wide variety, I'm sure, but if we can put some attention to that, staff, and Steve has responded to my inquiry regarding that, and I really appreciate that. And anything, Ashley, if you have any comments on that, it would be great. Thanks.
Okay. That's it? Okay, thank you. Steve will add that. Councillor Clell?
This is kudos to Steve Knight. I just would like to thank operations because, you know, I've been on about all the streetlights in the city and both east side, west side, everywhere. I do my patrol at night. And I have had so many compliments lately about the streetlights that you repaired. You sent me a report and I was laughing because I'd already been around. I knew what was on and what wasn't. So I'm hearing nothing but good comments. People are very pleased with all the work that's going on and they know that you are trying that thing that, and they do know that we have difficulties. They know about the seaway problems. I keep telling them. But all in all, like everyone along here has said, I'm hearing such good things about what's going on. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your comments about snow, I'm probably the only one praying for snow. I bought a new snow blower and hadn't been able to use it. So the next storm, blame me because I want a whole bunch of snow. Thanks.
You didn't get one of those deals where if it doesn't snow, you get your money back? Or?
No.
Yeah, there you go.
Anything a 42-inch snow blower can do, I'll be there. Comment, Mr. Mayor, on Councillor Wells' comment on how that transport truck got down there, which is really hard to believe, but I can tell you that we get lots of transport trucks at our store inside Shirts and Shores. The GPS took the one transport truck down right to the entrance of Wildwood Beach. Yeah, right there. He didn't drive down on the beach, but drove right past our store and stopped before he got on the beach. So maybe that's an explanation. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, let's block that off. Mr. Mayor, through you to Acting Treasurer, CAO, shovels the walk, I don't know, whatever else he does. Peter, got an email, and I know we talked about this, but I wonder if you could explain to the public. Gentleman had paid his taxes, and the bank requires a receipt for that. And can you tell us how somebody can get a receipt without coming back to City Hall?
Peter?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Councillor Bodnar. Yes, right now, we don't have, our system can't automatically send out receipts for people that have made payments, although we're looking at a potential solution to that. But in the meantime, if anyone that's looking for a receipt, they can call in to our tax clerk. And what we do is normal practice right now, don't have a lot of them, but when they do call in, we will email them. If they give us their email address, we can email them a copy of their statement, which shows what they've paid. And then they don't have to come into City Hall. If they do come into City Hall, then our cashiers will look up and they'll stamp their receipts as paid also. We're hoping that sometime this year that we're able to get into a system that ratepayers can actually go online and be able to look at their own account, whether it's the water account, tax account. We do have that program. We have purchased it. We just haven't had a chance to implement it at this point in time. So I'll be talking to our finance staff and see what the timing of that is going forward. And that would help with anybody go online and have a password and that to be able to see their own account and and nobody else's. But in the meantime, anybody that needs to look at, want to get that, they can just call in, provide us your email address, and then they can be emailed out to them directly, which is a lot less costly for us than having to mail them all out too, because that's the other option, obviously. But if we had to do them for the whole city, it would be very costly to mail out all receipts. But on an as-needed basis, we can do that.
Okay, Councillor? All set? All right, on to consideration of items. Item number 2, Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Your Mayor. Item number 2, Engineering and Operations Department, Engineering Division Report 2020-02, Subject Project 2020-01, the Shield Municipal Drain.
Seconder, Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Wells.
through you, your mayor, to Steve. I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but the bid that was proposed by Anthony's was approximately 56% lower than the next bid, and then 87% lower than the bid after that. Are we missing something? Are we going to get the value for it? Because we have had some problems with some of the other drains. The estimate coming in quite low and then having to go through the process of having that revised.
Steve?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Wells. We've had our engineer, the appointed engineer, and our drainage superintendent look through the cost estimate. It was mainly a per meter cost price that was submitted, and they're both confident that that price would suffice for what we're trying to do. We have worked with the contractor in the past on municipal drains and have had good experiences with them.
Councillor?
Okay, I just, sometimes you get what you pay for. I'm concerned about that. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3, Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Corporate Services Department Clerks Division Report 2020-07, subject Council Review Committee Terms of Reference.
Seconder for that? Councillor Beauregard. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to get the right page there. Under the terms of reference, we get into the question of the length of the committee or term of office. And it reads, the committee shall terminate upon acceptance of the committee's recommendations to council, which shall be completed on or before December 31st, 2020. Just wondering, and the clerk can perhaps answer this, it's really, I mean, she may be referring to the acceptance of the delivery of the committee's recommendations, but I would argue that it should either be the committee shall terminate upon either receipt of the report or disposition of the report, because it is not a given that the recommendations will be accepted.
Madam Clerk?
Through the mayor, you are correct. It is supposed to be upon the acceptance, not upon the implementation of the recommendations. It's just about the report with the recommendations within it. If you'd like me to clarify it, I can add wording in the final terms.
Thank you. I think it would probably be more appropriate for it to be disposition of the report. Because in case you went back to the committee after the council debate, it wouldn't then be disposed of yet.
And our latest date is December 31st of 2020, correct? To make a decision, if there's any decisions to be made?
No, December 31st, 2021 is when council needs to make decisions.
Okay.
So this gives an year buffer.
So you got a year buffer, Councillor, just so you know that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. You've got that?
Yeah.
It's changed, okay. No further questions, all those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Item number 7 for the conflict, Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City of Niagara Falls, hang on a second. Resolution regarding Port Colborne Aquifer through Fort Erie.
Okay, seconder to that, Councillor Desmarais. And noting the two councillors' conflicts, any comments, Councillor?
I'd just like to bring to people's attention that this was a resolution that Fort Erie had put forward regarding the aquifer and the challenges that may be involved with it, and that Niagara Falls agreed with what Fort Erie had said, and this is just a confirmation of them saying that they did that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous, except for the two councillors. Any notices of motion? Councillor, notices of motion.
Through your worship, I have a notice of motion that I will bring a motion forward that will endorse Bill 164, protecting Vulnerable Persons in Support of Living Conditions Act 2019, brought forward by MPP Jeff Birch at Queen's Park. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other notices of motion? This meeting is adjourned. Now we're on to our regular meeting of council. Call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, introduction of any addendum items.
There are none this evening.
Mover and a seconder for confirmation of the agenda. Councillor Bagu, Councillor Bruno. Any questions? All's in favor? That's unanimous. Any disclosures of interest? The two coming forward for item 7. Any further conflicts? Okay. We have the regular meeting of Council 35-19 held on December the 9th, 2019. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Clayliff, Councillor Bodner. Any questions to that? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Bodner, do you want to bring item 7 forward again? Any others? A mover and a seconder of all those items not requiring separate discussion. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Wells. Any questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Councillor Bodner, item 7.
City of Niagara Falls resolution regarding Port Colborne Aquifer through Fort Erie.
Okay, seconder for that. Councillor Bagu. Questions? And again, noting the conflicts. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. There are no proclamations this evening. Council, I have a number of minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. I'll move these in block. We have the minutes of the Port Colborne Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting of September the 4th, 2019, and October 22nd, 2019. Minutes of the Port Colborne Public Library Board meeting of November 12th, 2019, and December 10th, 2019. Minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting of September 11th, 2019. Minutes of the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum Board of Management meeting of October the 15th, 2019. Minutes of the Social Determinants of Health Advisory Committee Everyone Matters meeting of September the 5th, 2019. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wells, Councillor Bagu. Any questions on any of these? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Consideration of bylaws. Madam Clerk.
There are 3 bylaws this evening. Bylaw 6750-01-20 to bylaw 6752-03-20.
Okay, mover and a seconder. Councillor Bodner. Councillor Wells. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Council will now move into closed session. We need a motion to move into closed session to proceed for the following matters. Minutes of the closed session portion of the following council meeting, December the 9th, 2019. Verbal report from Cecil Vincent, Manager of Special Projects and Strategic Initiatives, regarding Nyon Energy Lands and the Nyon Tank Farm property pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and 2392F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Chief Administrative Officer, Department Report 2020-08, Cruise Tourism Infrastructure, Development and Land Acquisition pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And the Corporate Services Department Clerk's Division Report 2020-03, appointments to boards and committees pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsections 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Bagu, Councillor Bruno. Any questions? All those in favor? Unanimous. And we will now move into closed session. Oh, yeah, use the boys' room, yeah.